Yo, what is good, guys? It is Ortiz back with another video. Now look, if you don't already know, in just a couple of days, one of the biggest events in the world is going to be happening again, that being the World Cup. And so I decided that I was going to try and predict the World Cup for 2022. But without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So for Group A, currently we have Netherlands, Senegal, Ecuador, and Qatar. I think number one's easy to guess. Netherlands, they're a great team. Did really well in the Nations League, going 5-1. I think their defense is really great. Obviously, you have the likes of Van Dijk, De Ligt, Dumfries, De Vrij, Nathaniel Ake, a lot of good players there. And we can't forget about the other players on the team like Frankie de Jong, Memphis Depay, Cody Gakpo, who's been doing really well recently. Number two, I would give it to Senegal. Despite issues with Sadio Mane, their star player, Sadio Mane got injured in a Bayern Munich game, and I've just been seeing that he will miss the opening games, and then they'll see if he's ready to play the rest of the games. Who knows? But I think regardless of, obviously he's a star player, but they still have other good assets on that team. They're arguably the best team in Africa, and Ecuador will get number 3 and Qatar 4. Ecuador coming into this World Cup with a very young squad. Qatar last. I know they're the host of this World Cup, and normally the host does really well, but there's just nothing really going for them right now. We're going to follow that up with Group B, which I actually think is one of the toughest groups to predict. I think you can make a strong case for all of these teams. Obviously, I'm going to put England number 1. Very solid squad despite recent poor performances from them. England have a lot of good players. I mean, their defense maybe a little iffy. I mean, I know they've had issues at fullback. I know Chilwell was out. If I remember correctly, I think Kyle Walker is out. It's either Kyle Walker or Reece James, one of the two. But I think England can still pull it up to number 1. Number 2 is where it gets difficult. And I think for a long time, I said it would be USA, but I might just give the slight edge to Wales. I think it'll be very close. They have a squad involving Gareth Bale, who's going to be their star player. I think Bale will want to show out this World Cup, maybe his last. And so I think he will have some success. I mean, we saw him get a little bit of success in the MLS recently. Third, I would go USA. They're still a young squad. Iran last. I don't really see much going for them. Group C, you obviously got to put Argentina first. They're one of the favorites to win. Lionel Messi, who's killing it currently. Now, where it gets difficult is Mexico versus Poland. It's so close. It's so close. Mexico, obviously, we've seen them in the recent World Cup performances. Mexico have done well, mostly because of Guillermo Ochoa. It's just like this Mexico team, I feel like has not really gotten better or gotten worse, or at least not significantly better or significantly worse. They've just kind of hit this plateau. Poland, on the other hand, good squad. Obviously have one of the best strikers, Lewandowski. They didn't really do well in the Nations League. They lost 6-1 to Belgium. But obviously, this Mexico team is not on the same level as Belgium, so I don't expect that type of results from their match. Still, I will give this one to Mexico, mostly because I don't know what it is about this Mexico team. Specifically, Guillermo Ochoa, their goalkeeper. We all know whenever the World Cup happens, Guillermo Ochoa will turn into one of the best goalkeepers ever. And then once the World Cup is finished, we will not hear a single thing from him ever again until the next World Cup happens. And I expect the same thing from this World Cup, if I'm being honest. It'd be interesting to see Guillermo Ochoa versus Lewandowski. Group D, France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. Okay, I'm going to go with Denmark, number 1, which I don't even think is very surprising. I feel like a lot of people actually believe Denmark will get number 1, and I agree. I think this Denmark team is a very good team. They have good chemistry, good spirit. Ever since Eriksen's unfortunate heart attack, they've just been into this completely new squad that have just been really great. If I remember correctly, they beat France twice in the Nations League. And so, yeah, I think Denmark could get it done. If they beat France twice already, not too long ago, they can do it again and get number 1. Then, secondly, I will have France. Now, I know that there's a whole World Cup curse where the winner of it in the next World Cup does very bad. We saw that recently. Germany in the 2014 World Cup won it. 2018 didn't even get out the group stages, and we've seen that before as well. I think France still gets out the group stage. Don't get me wrong. They still have a good enough squad to get out the group stage. Their squad from the 2018 has been a little different. Their midfield looks a little different. They no longer have Pogba and Conte in midfield due to injury. They have a much younger midfield, and I know Nkunku recently just got injured in a training session, but it's just this France team. They just end up getting second, which is still good, don't get me wrong. And then we're gonna put, I think, Tunisia third, Australia fourth. Group E, Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. I think Germany gets number one. Now, they've been in poor form as well, but they still have very good players, very good quality players. You obviously have Neuer back in goal. Listen, after their performance in the 2018 World Cup, I think they're going to come into this World Cup wanting to make a statement again, wanting to prove themselves, because I think after that horrible defeat and horrible performance, they were no longer seen as a tough team anymore. I think they want to come back into this World Cup showing that they're still as dominant as ever. Then I think Spain will get second. Spain are a very good team. Very young players, are pretty good. They just need to connect the pieces, I think. They did really well in the Nations League in their group. We obviously saw them tie to Portugal, but then beat them with a goal from Morata to get them first place in their group. Which, speaking of which, I think this Spain team, what they really lack is a striker. They need a striker who's a real goal threat. You know, you look at Morata. Morata has never really been seen as a goal threat, somebody who you should watch out for. He's just there. And that's what Spain needs. I think, actually, they should have picked up Gerard Moreno to be their striker. I think he's way more of a goal threat than Morata, but, you know, it's whatever. I'll give the upper hand to Costa Rica and then Japan. Group F, Belgium, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. Belgium got to go first. Good squad. Only real weakness I see in their squad is their defense. But they have a world-class, one of the best, actually no, the best goalkeeper, Courtois, the best midfielder, arguably, Kevin De Bruyne. And then in attack, they have Lukaku and Hazard. Hazard hasn't really been, you know, playing well or getting much playing time in Real Madrid. Lukaku, if I'm not mistaken, just came back from injury. And then Croatia would be second, and then Canada third, Morocco fourth. The thing is, I've seen some people put Canada above Croatia, but I think Croatia wins this just because even though they're a very old squad now, a lot of the good players are getting old, they're still very solid. You look at Luka Modric, he's old. He's 36 or something, but he's still playing amazingly. It's just their midfield, really, who I think will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And I think experience wins this time over the younger guys in Canada. Group G, you gotta put Brazil first, obviously the favorites to win this. And then when it comes to Serbia and Switzerland, for a very long time, I felt like Serbia would win and get second place, but I think I may just switch over to Switzerland on this one. So I'm gonna put Switzerland second, Serbia third, Cameroon fourth. Now the thing is, Switzerland and Serbia, I think are evenly matched. Switzerland has Xhaka, who has been doing really well for Arsenal. You have Shaqiri, even though he's older now, still playing pretty well. And the return, hopefully for them actually, I don't know if he's still injured or not, but Sommer in goal. Now I know Switzerland didn't do as well as Serbia in the Nations League, and despite losing to Portugal and Spain, they were also able to beat Portugal and Spain later on. Serbia did get number one in their group, but the competition just wasn't as competitive as the one Switzerland was in. So I think I've been convinced Switzerland can get number two for their group. Lastly, Group H, I think Portugal will get number one, Uruguay number two, South Korea number three, and Ghana fourth. Portugal have an amazing squad, at least on paper. Their squad is amazing. It's stacked, a lot of good players. Their team is just very inconsistent, but I still think they get number one. Uruguay number two, they're gonna be a tough opponent. You have the likes of Valverde in midfield. We all know how good Valverde has been playing for Real Madrid. South Korea will get third, Ghana fourth. Ghana, I mean, are one of the lowest, Ghana is the lowest ranked team in this World Cup. And I think that just kind of speaks for itself. I know we shouldn't look at rankings too much because Belgium was number one for so long, but I think that is pretty important in this scenario. Round of 16. So the round of 16, we have Netherlands versus Wales. Netherlands wins this with ease. Argentina versus France, that'll be a good matchup, but Argentina will win them. England versus Senegal could be close. I would say if Mane comes back, it'll be a lot closer, but if they don't have him, England. I mean, even if they do have him, I think England still wins, but it'll just be a little closer. Denmark versus Mexico, I give that one to Denmark. Some of these are just kind of very obvious. So Germany versus Croatia. Remember how I said Croatia's age may be beneficial for them in the group stages because of experience? I think this is where it kind of backfires on them now. I think Germany wins this one. Afterwards, Brazil versus Uruguay. Brazil wins this. It'll be a tough matchup. Belgium versus Spain. This will be an interesting one. I think Spain's attack, that pace, and I think that pace will be a little too much for the defense that I said Belgium was kind of lacking. Now, we've seen Courtois. I mean, maybe Courtois could save them. We've seen how Courtois saved Real Madrid in the Champions League final against Liverpool. But I just don't think he can do it this time. I think it'll be too much for him. Portugal versus Switzerland. I mean, Portugal have beaten Switzerland 4-0 in the Nations League, but then they've lost to them. I'll still give it to Portugal. Netherlands versus Argentina. That'll be a close one. I think Netherlands has one of the best chances of stopping this Argentinian team because they have a really good defense, like I said. But I will still give it to Argentina on this one. Germany versus Brazil. Now, last time we saw this in the World Cup, we all know how it ended. I don't have to say much. But I think this time, Brazil will get the revenge. And even though it may not be 7-1, I think they still win with a little bit of ease. I don't see a world where this Brazil team does not make it to the semifinals. Anything less than the semifinals is disappointing for them. England versus Denmark. England, despite having a good squad, always bottle it, always just make it harder on themselves and end up losing. It's just been a running thing for them. And I think it happens again. I think Denmark beats them. I mean, if Denmark could beat France, then they can beat England. Spain versus Portugal, very good matchup. We saw them face off in the Nations League where they tied once and then Spain beat Portugal 1-0. I think it'll be a very close one. I think if Portugal have made it this far to the quarterfinals, that means that they have gained some chemistry, some composure, some consistency to themselves. I think this game ends up going to either extra time or penalties. I think penalties, it'll go to penalties where Portugal will win it. And then we'll have the semifinals, Argentina versus Brazil and Denmark versus Portugal. Argentina versus Brazil, it'll be one of the craziest matches ever. We obviously know Argentina beat Brazil when Messi won his first international trophy. But I think most people are saying Argentina will win because they want to see this final, which I don't blame them. I'd love to see this final too. And obviously it'd be an amazing final. It would be the most watched final in all of history for sure. But I've got to give it to the Brazilian team. It almost seems like they have no weakness. I know people say their issue is like their fullback position. Okay, cool. But look, this Brazil team have one problem. They don't know who to start because there's so much talent in every position. It's difficult. Can you imagine having to choose between whether to start Ederson or Alisson? That's a good problem to have. The inner part of me that wants to see CR7 versus Messi will want to see this final, but I've got to go with my more logical side and say Brazil will get to the finals where they will beat Portugal. I mean, again, this Brazilian team is just stacked. Now, if the final ends up being Argentina versus Portugal, that's a whole different story. Then I got to go at Portugal. But that's just a bias in me because, you know, I want Ronaldo to win it over Messi because I'm a Ronaldo fan, whatever. And by the way, just because I'm a Ronaldo fan, that's not the reason why I have them going to the final. I just have them going to the final because I think they're a very underrated squad. I get that the consistency to their team needs to be worked on, but they have very good players. Portugal no longer have a team where they need to rely on Ronaldo. Okay, let's be real. Ronaldo has not been doing well recently. But the thing is, this would be an issue if this was like the 2014 team or the 2018 team. Ronaldo's finally on a team where he's surrounded by very good players who can take that pressure off of him. I think Portugal have the best chance now to get to the finals. And I think they will make it to the finals where they will sadly lose to Brazil. But if they go up against Argentina, they're winning that for sure. Absolutely. Call me biased. I don't care. Regardless, I think the Brazil team wins it all. Let me know who you guys think will make it to the final and who will win it. And I will try to record some of my reactions to some of the matches, at least the more important matches. I'll even record a video where I go back and look at all my predictions after the World Cup has ended and see how much I got wrong or right. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.